The entire story of Wayward Pines in X minutes. What if you wake up in a place where you can't leave and you are constantly being watched? In the town of Wayward Pines, you must follow the rules. Work hard, be happy, answer the phone when it rings. Don't talk about the past and don't try to leave. Leaving means death. Based on Blake Crouch's Wayward Pines trilogy, this is a tale of survival set in a place most have never dreamed of. Secret Service agent Ethan Burke and his colleague head to Idaho to investigate the disappearance of two fellow agents. But a car accident knocks him out, and he finds himself waking up in a strange hospital in Wayward Pines. After talking to Nurse Pam, he senses something is off and escapes. In town, Ethan gets help from the bartender, Beverly. This leads to Ethan discovering that one of the missing agents, Bill Evans, is dead. Ethan seeks aid from Sheriff Pope, who proves himself dismissive and unhelpful. When Ethan tries to contact his family and agency, every attempt fails. Ethan later returns to the bar to meet Beverly again, but he gets into an argument with the owner and gets knocked out. He once again wakes up in the hospital, but this time he's restrained. Dr. Jenkins, a psychiatrist, claims Ethan has a dissociative breakdown due to a brain hemorrhage and requires surgery. But Beverly helps Ethan escape and warns him that trying to leave is deadly. Ethan finds another missing agent, Kate Hewson, who insists she's been in town for 12 years, even though Ethan just saw her 5 weeks ago. Determined to leave, Ethan drives off in a car but finds the roads lead back into town. He then enters the woods and discovers a massive electric fence enclosing the area. Dejected, Ethan walks back to the car just when Sheriff Pope arrives. Ethan wants to leave town, but the sheriff says he can't. The next day, despite Sheriff Pope's warning to stay in his hotel, Ethan continues searching for the truth. He can only turn to Beverly, who reveals the town is under constant surveillance. Ethan visits the Bollingers' toy store, run by Harold and Kate. He confronts Kate about her actions and the circulating counterfeit money, but the surveillance prevents her from openly answering. Before leaving, he sees the official notice forbidding attempts to leave, discussing the past and ignoring phone calls. Ethan later discovers a small hidden notebook left behind by Agent Evans. He shares this with Beverly, and they plot an escape. Noticing that they're close, the Bollingers invite them to dinner. During dinner, Beverly is so nervous about pulling off their escape plan that she makes a mistake by talking about her past life and violating the town rules. Beverly and Ethan quickly leave, but it's too late. Phones are ringing in every house, triggering Beverly's memory of the night Evans died. Ethan instructs Beverly to proceed with the escape while he distracts the others. However, Beverly is soon caught. The entire town gathers as Sheriff Pope executes her. Powerless, Ethan can only watch from a nearby building. Meanwhile, Ethan's worried wife, Theresa, and their son, Ben, track him to Wayward Pines. On their way, they are intercepted by Sheriff Pope, who sabotages their car. Still determined to leave that town, Ethan secretly rides the milk truck and discovers a hidden supply depot. While exploring, Ethan finds his family's belongings. Realizing they've been brought to town, Pope catches him snooping around and knocks him out. Ethan wakes again in the hospital, where Nurse Pam assures him of his family's safety. Ethan goes to his newly assigned house and finds Theresa and Ben waiting. Unable to explain much, he warns them to stay put before he heads out again. Unaware, Ben secretly follows him out and sees him with Kate. Ben returns and tells his mom that his dad's mistress is also there. Hearing this, they decide to leave town. They make it to the road when the sheriff suddenly chases, forcing them to run. Ethan returns home and finds them gone. He quickly leaves to look for them. Pope chases Theresa and Ben through the woods until they reach the tall fence. A fight occurs, but Ethan saves his family in time and takes down the sheriff. With the sheriff's keys, they all ride in the car and Ethan opens the huge gate. A strange creature suddenly jumps out to take the sheriff's remains. Ethan quickly closes the gate and reverses the car out of that place. With the death of Sheriff Pope, Ethan is suddenly appointed as the new sheriff of Wayward Pines. Even Mayor Fisher doesn't know who made the decision, so Ethan just plays along. Digging through Pope's files, Ethan learns that the townspeople had very different pasts before living there. Meanwhile, Ben starts school at the town's academy. Principal Megan Fisher, a former hypnotherapist, begins private sessions with Ben, where she subtly convinces him to forget life outside Wayward Pines. Continuing their investigation, Ethan and Theresa invite the Fishers to dinner. There, Ethan learns from the mayor that the town's real mission centers around the children. At the sheriff's office, Peter McCall, a graffiti protester, is taken in by Pam. She says it's Peter's third strike and is now subjected to a reckoning. Unlike what is expected of him, Ethan befriends Peter. After understanding Ethan's personality, Peter knows Ethan can't do the inevitable, so he chooses to sacrifice himself. Shaken, Ethan decides to climb the mountain wall that Peter mentioned before passing away. He reaches the top and goes beyond the border, only to glimpse a terrifying humanoid creature lurking. Back in town, Theresa receives a job offer from the real estate office. Theresa plays along and begins her job as a real estate agent. Unlike the typical agent, her role is not to sell, but to give houses to the town's newcomers. Over time, she realizes a pattern where new residents arrive after a mysterious accident. Meanwhile, Ben enters the academy's orientation. There, Mrs. Fisher reveals a shocking truth. The current year is 4028. The students are part of the first generation and were placed in hibernation chambers to ensure the human race's survival. While they won't meet their savior, David Pilcher, she assures them he is always watching over them. After the orientation, Mrs. Fisher leads them to join the rest of the first generation. At the same time, Ethan explores the wilderness beyond the fence, encountering the deadly mutated creatures known as aberrations, aka the Abbies. After managing to survive the forest, Ethan stumbles upon a ruin where the town of Boise used to be. A helicopter suddenly flies down and Dr. Jenkins climbs out. Ethan learns that he is David Pilcher himself. Based on what Ethan experienced, the doctor confirms that the outside world is long gone and only Wayward Pines remains. Pilcher gives Ethan two choices: return to the ruined world or join him in Wayward Pines. With such options, Ethan boards the helicopter where Nurse Pam greets him. David brings Ethan to their base, explaining how evolved creatures called Abbies now roam the earth, and that Wayward Pines is intentionally built to preserve their species. Inside the facility, Ethan sees volunteers working behind the scenes and everything necessary to keep the town running. As Pam treats his wounds, Ethan learns she's actually David's sister. After that, Ethan looks around and discovers an Abbie confined there. David explains how he discovered a mutation in human DNA. He reported it, but it was ignored. So he took matters into his own hands and conducted cryonic suspension on a select few. Meanwhile, Theresa continues her investigation and uncovers an undeveloped area in Plot 33. Apparently, Ethan and Theresa aren't the only ones investigating. Kate, with her husband Harold and delivery man Ted, is building a bomb behind the scenes. As Ethan learns the truth, he wants to let the townspeople know of this. David disagrees, citing his initial attempt with Group A and how things ended in mayhem. Though Ethan disagrees with how things progressed with the abductions, the surveillance, and the reckoning, he promises to keep the people safe within the walls after learning of the threat who are plotting to take down the fence. Ethan returns home and tells his wife the truth about Wayward Pines. However, Theresa thinks something has been done to Ethan. That morning, before Ethan can even investigate the threats, he finds a bomb planted in his vehicle. Meanwhile, Theresa explores plot number 33 and discovers a hidden structure beneath the empty lot. With Pam's help, Ethan investigates those who are targeting the fence. He finds former explosives expert Franklin Dobbs suspicious and later learns about Harold and Kate's involvement in a secret group. Ethan confronts Kate and reveals what lies beyond the fence. Hearing this, she agrees to hand over all explosives under her control. However, when she meets back with her husband, she believes that Ethan is brainwashed and pushes up the plan to blast through the fence. Meanwhile, Ben and his girlfriend Amy plan to meet later that night, but Ethan ruins this by insisting his son stay home. Using the town surveillance, Ethan learns that Kate's group still plans to proceed with their plan. He immediately intercepts them at the fence before they succeed, but Ethan soon realizes another bomb is heading to the fence in a delivery truck and quickly goes in pursuit. Unaware, Amy and Ben sneak into the truck. Because of them, the bomb detonates early before reaching the fence. However, this leaves Amy injured and Ben bloody and unconscious. Ethan rushes Ben to the hospital while Amy trails behind with injuries. Ethan hands Ben off to Pam and a team of doctors. Amy is cleared to rest and Ben eventually regains consciousness. Later, Megan pulls him aside for a private talk, twisting the truth and stoking Ben's anger toward Ethan for letting a terrorist go free. Meanwhile, Ted, the truck driver, did not survive the blast. Harold and Franklin move forward with their plan to go beyond the fence and bury Ted's body. At her brother's insistence, Pam begins questioning the surveillance team after noticing gaps in the footage logs. It is later revealed that one guy is deleting some records of people, violating their rules. In response, David decides to lock the man in a cryonic chamber. Soon after, Ethan receives an emergency call about a stolen truck and realizes the rebels plan to crash through the fence. Before the plan goes through, Harold changes his mind, unwilling to leave his wife behind. The remaining accomplice drives off on the stolen truck with Ted's body, ramming it straight through the fence. After he succeeds, he drags Ted out of the truck and celebrates their freedom. However, a group of Abbies suddenly appears and attacks them. Ethan quickly responds and deals with the Abbies crossing the fence. After Ethan finishes, David pressures him to do the reckonings, but Ethan is adamant about doing things his way. So he arrests Harold and demands the names of those involved. During the investigation, he discovers that the group has removed their tracking chips, and Ethan warns Pilcher about blind spots in the surveillance system. At the hospital, Pam secretly hands Theresa a keycard. Theresa figures out what it is for and heads to the bunker under plot number 33. There, she uses Pam's keycard for the door. Meanwhile, Amy suffers a brain injury and undergoes surgery, while Megan urges Ben to speak out and support the town's rules. Tensions erupt when the first generation learns that Ethan won't do a reckoning. Jason Higgins leads some teens to storm the jail and execute the locked-up rebels. Ethan stops them and saves Kate, but it is too late for Harold and the others. Inside the bunker, Theresa discovers a video of Adam Hassler reporting from the outside world, proving that everything they know is gone. She shares this with Ethan and Kate, and they change their plans. At Kate's scheduled reckoning, Ethan defies Pilcher and broadcasts the truth to the entire town, exposing exposing the lies and control behind Wayward Pines. The crowd is shaken, but Pilcher retaliates by shutting down the town's power, including the protective fence. As darkness falls, an Abbie begins climbing into Wayward Pines. After Pilcher cuts the town's power, Pam warns Ethan that the Abbies are coming, prompting him to evacuate everyone to the underground bunker. As the streets fall into chaos, Kate and a few others fight off the Abbies, while Theresa rescues Ben and Amy from the hospital with Ethan's help. Most townspeople make it to the bunker, where Megan reveals an emergency tunnel leading to Pilcher's mountain complex. She stays behind to wait for the first generation, but is seemingly killed by the Abbies. Elsewhere, the rest of the first generation finds safety within the school walls, where they have their own supplies for their survival. As the Abbies continue to close in, the town's remaining survivors ascend to the mountain complex. But when the Abbies enter the bunker and reach the elevator, Ethan sacrifices himself by detonating a bomb to stop them. Ben watches the explosion in horror and screams for his father. However, he gets knocked out by a small falling debris. Within the complex, Pam can no longer deny how unreasonable her brother has become, forgetting their main goal of protecting mankind. With her own hands, she ends Pilcher to restore power to the town. Years pass and adult Amy wakes Ben from cryosleep. The first season ends, revealing that the first generation now controls Wayward Pines. Season 2. Season 2 starts 3 years after Ethan's death, and a few months after Ben reawakens. Jason Higgins and his partner, Kerry, lead the first generation in strictly controlling Wayward Pines. Our new protagonist, Dr. Theo Yedlin, wakes from his cryo-sleep, confused and separated from his wife, Rebecca. Without much explanation, he is immediately put to work in saving the gunshot patient, Kate Hewson. After a successful operation, Theo checks on his now awake patient. Kate calls him Group C and warns Theo about the town's true nature. Theo soon understands her warning when Jason executes a rebel in public. Ben and Xander appear to stop. Jason stops the execution and arrests them, along with Theo, who tried to intervene. Kerry tries to reason with Jason about Ben and Theo, but he refuses to listen. Meanwhile, Megan Fisher appears to be still alive and visits Kate. She plans to deal with her, but Kate is one step ahead. Refusing to live in such a world, Kate does Megan's work herself. As for Theo, he reunites with his wife, Rebecca, but senses that she's complicit in whatever is happening there. Theo demands answers from Jason, but receives none. Along with Ben and Xander, Theo is sent beyond the fence to be exiled. Outside the walls, Theo realizes the dangerous reality beyond Wayward Pines by coming face to face with the Abbies. Something weird happens at the fence. The Abbies start sacrificing themselves to create a ladder out of their remains. Jason, Kerry, and their military team rush to deal with them. In the chaos, Kerry gets gravely injured, requiring professional medical help. Desperate, Jason commands that Theo be brought back and operate on Kerry. Once they successfully retrieve Theo back within their borders, Theo makes demands. With his partner's life on the line, Jason has his people bring Rebecca and finally reveals the truth. Though unbelieving, Theo proceeds with the operation at Rebecca's insistence, saving Kerry's life. Afterward, Theo confronts Rebecca, who confesses she's been living there for the past 3 years. Theo refuses this reality, but Rebecca's slap makes him realize it's no hallucination. Theo soon realizes how crucial he is to the town and starts working at the hospital. While he can accept this version of reality, Theo refuses to submit to dictatorship. As the only real doctor there, Theo doesn't hesitate to argue with Jason. With the rebellion over, Jason shifts their focus to providing food. CJ, one of Pilcher's proteges, leads a dangerous but successful harvest mission beyond the fence, using flamethrowers to fight off the Abbies. On their return, Ben tries to re-enter the town, but Jason denies him. Knowing his most probable end, Ben records a final message before the Abbies attack him. After this, the Abbies nearby mysteriously vanish. The military force investigates this and confirms that the Abbies nearby have indeed vanished. While Kerry remains cautious, Jason is excited to explore outside. A glimpse into Jason's past reveals he was the first child raised in Wayward Pines. Groomed by David and Pam to become the future leader, Jason grew up under immense pressure and isolation, but there were always adults to guide him. At present, Pam unexpectedly returns, sparking mixed reactions and stirring tension. However, Pam grows disillusioned with what Wayward Pines has become and steals a smallpox virus sample from the lab. She's immediately caught, and Pam reveals her desire to end the town peacefully rather than let it rot. As a leader and the boy raised by Pam, Jason is torn but ultimately chooses to end her for everyone's sake. Unlike the others exiled with him, Xander wakes up, trapped in a pit. Forced to fight an Abbie in close quarters, he barely escapes. Outside the fence, Xander runs into Ethan and Kate's old boss from the Secret Service, Adam Hassler. From the years living alone outside, it is apparent that he's deeply haunted. With Adam present, Xander is allowed back to Wayward Pines. However, upon Adam's checkup, his mental state and cryptic claims about the Abbies being humanity's replacements raise more questions. Uncomfortable in the hospital, Adam leaves and wanders around town where he encounters Theresa. She blames him for sending her husband there, and now her entire family is gone because of him. Meanwhile, with the continuous food crisis, CJ leads a new new expedition to plant new crops beyond the wall. Theresa joins CJ's group, hoping to find her son. Seeing this, Adam joins as well. But after settling down in the camp, they soon find Ben's body, and Theresa breaks down. Back in town, the carousel mysteriously turns on, and there, an Abbie is spotted. The creature doesn't attack, and the military quickly arrives. Kerry notices that the Abbie is female and suggests capturing it instead. They succeed and bring it to the lab. Naming her Margaret, they observed how she is strangely passive and even has a raised spiral mark on her palm. The story flashes back to Rebecca's past, revealing how Pilcher recruited her as the architect for Wayward Pines. Back to the present, the military confirms there are no Abbies in town, but they can't determine how Margaret got in. Jason goes to Rebecca, asking if there are any flaws in the design. Rebecca assures him that there's nothing wrong with her plans. Meanwhile, with Kerry's support, Theo takes Megan's position in leading the research on the Abbies. But this win is short-lived, for Theo walks in on his wife and Xander. He discovers they're also married, shattering whatever remains of their relationship. Outside the fence, an army of Abbies armed with torches sets the fields on fire. CJ's group has no choice but to return because of this. Wayward Pines military immediately fights off the Abbies to save what they can. However, everything seems to burn down, destroying the town's food supply. Amidst the chaos, Theo calmly leads the young doctors, organizing the wounded and giving instructions to keep everything under control. After the incident, Jason spirals under pressure, but Kerry pulls him together to lead everyone. They soon hold a meeting, and CJ insists the Abbies intentionally planned this. Megan then reports how, during the attack, the male Abbies were wild, but Margaret was calm, as if she was focusing on commanding the others. After holding a funeral, a report comes in about the massive number of approaching Abbies. Meanwhile, Hassler is left devastated by Theresa's death because of the attack. Despite his current state, Theo approaches him to learn everything Adam knows about the Abbies. He shares about the female Abbie, and Adam asks if the female's palm has a raised mark. That night, the Abbies gather outside the fence and begin howling, worrying everyone in town. The story jumps back to the past, tracing CJ's lonely journey across centuries as he maintains the pods, sees humans evolve, and slowly loses touch with reality. Returning to the present, Theo leads the study in understanding Margaret and her intelligence. He tirelessly teaches her how to communicate, believing she's the key to peace between their species. However, the progress is disrupted when Adam charges inside the lab and warns that the Abbies will stop at nothing to retrieve their leader. As thousands of Abbies gather outside the fence, Theo makes a bold move to prove Margaret's intelligence and authority. But the moment shatters when Jason snaps and kills the caged male Abbies, earning Margaret's wrath. After things calm down, Megan was left alone in the lab. She refuses to accept the Abbies' intelligence, but Margaret proves her wrong by escaping and leaving Megan to bleed out in silence. Chaos erupts as the town is placed under lockdown after Margaret's escape. She evades soldiers again and again, while Theo, Adam, Rebecca, and Xander scramble to track her down first. Xander manages to wound Margaret, but she runs off again. As the search continues, a standoff erupts between Jason's men and some citizens, leading to a casualty. While Jason and Kerry regroup, Rebecca arrives with the town's architectural plans and informs them how the Abbie got in. At the same time, Adam finds the wounded Margaret, who is about to escape through the same tunnel that she got in. Adam lets Margaret go and follows her into the wild, where she spares his life. Jason's team shortly arrives at the same tunnel and seals it for good with explosives. Outside the walls, the Abbies gather to tend to Margaret's wound. Considering how things progressed, Jason decides to have everyone return to cryosleep to escape the Abbie invasion. However, CJ discovers that only half the pods work. With such a predicament, Jason plans to select survivors based on medical records, triggering a furious backlash from Theo. Knowing that Kerry and Jason are lovers, Theo tries to turn Kerry against Jason. However, we finally learn the truth through a flashback, revealing how Pilcher chose Kerry because of her resilience and survival instincts. Unknown to them, Kerry is Jason's biological mother. At present, Jason learns of this truth because of Pilcher's sealed files. Though obviously shaken, Jason tries to be calm as he probes her for the truth, but Kerry doesn't know about their blood ties. What started as confusion turns into a violent confrontation, and it ends with Jason accidentally getting shot. Meanwhile, beyond the fence, Margaret regains strength enough to lead her brethren. Jason ends up dying from his gunshot wound, despite Theo operating on him. However, one of the young doctors questions Theo's actions during the operation, asking if it was intentional. Theo makes excuses to drop the subject, but he can't help acknowledging the young doctor. With Jason gone, Theo takes over the evacuation to the cryopods. The lack of operational pods forces him to make tough decisions. While reviewing blood records, Theo learns that Kerry and Jason carry the same rare AB blood type, sparking a realization. He then talks to Kerry, hinting at her blood ties to Jason. With her sharp understanding, Kerry pieces together the horrifying truth. Meanwhile, the authorities kept the limited operational pods a secret. Those selected are taken to the mountain complex, while those who weren't are left behind. With this obvious treatment, riots soon erupt in town. Amid the chaos, Theo plans to take out most of the Abbie's humanity's population with him by injecting himself with lethal virus strains. However, a riot in town prompts him to rescue some people, including Xander. Returning to the lab, Theo finds the strains and his recorder missing. It turns out Kerry has already taken them all. She claims that Theo must survive for humanity's sake. Soon, the selected survivors enter the pods and are sealed in for another long sleep. Outside, Kerry walks beyond the fence, sacrificing herself for an unknown future. At the very end, an Abbie gently rocks an infant, hinting at a new evolution. The story of Wayward Pines ends with everyone returning to sleep, leaving behind a world that may no longer be theirs. Given its progression, it feels like humanity is the intruder to the quiet life of the Abbies. When this remaining group of humans wakes up again, will there be a chance to coexist, or will something more sinister appear? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.